Have you ever walked into a room, you're feeling completely confident, ready to charm everyone with your new language skills?
Hmm.
You're dressed well, you've practiced your opening line, and you open your mouth to say something, sophisticated like, I am so embarrassed about my mistake. But instead, the room just goes dead silent. You can hear a pin drop.
I've been there. That silence is absolutely deafening because that exact moment where you know you've messed up, but you don't know how.
And later, usually much, much later when it's too late to fix it, you find out that what you actually told a room full of strangers was, I am pregnant.
Ah, the classic Embarazada incident.
Yeah.
It is a rite of passage for pretty much every English speaker learning Spanish. It's the linguistic equivalent of tripping on the red carpet.
It's brutal because you see the word embarrass, you hear embarazada, and your brain just screams, match. That's the one.
It sounds the same. It must mean the same.
Exactly. But in Spanish, embarazada means you are expecting a baby. It does not mean your face is turning red.
And that right there is the treacherous, slippery world of false friends.
False friends. It sounds like a bad high school drama, but today we're diving deep into the psychology of language learning. We aren't just memorizing lists of words.
No.
We are looking at the sources, everything from academic papers to Reddit threads, to really unpack the traps your own brain sets for you.
Exactly. We're going to look at why you hit that wall where you feel like you just aren't learning anything anymore, the dreaded plateau. We're also going to talk about fossilization.
Which is a terrifying concept for any learner.
It is.
It sounds terminal, like my brain is turning into a dinosaur bone.
It's fixable, but it's tough. And we're going to tackle the #1 complaint from learners, how to actually understand native speakers who seem to be talking at the speed of light.
So we've got a whole stack of research here from Cambridge University Press, the OTUK schools, academic papers on this upper intermediate plateau, and then some really practical in-the-trenches advice from language learners on blogs like Columbian Abroad and United College.
It's a great mix because you have the heavy academic theory on one side explaining why this happens, and then you have the I learned this the hard way experience on the other explaining how to fix it.
So let's go back to those false friends. This seems to be the hook, because it's where so many people stumble right out of the gate.
Mhm.
Why does our brain do this? Why do we assume these words are the same?
It's efficiency,
Yeah.
plain and simple. The brain is an energy-conserving machine. It loves a shortcut.
Okay.
And a false friend, or a false cognate, is a word that looks the same in two languages, usually because they share a distant Latin root. But over hundreds of years, they've evolved in completely different directions. Your brain sees the pattern and just says, oh, I know this one, and it skips the whole verification process.
So they look like twins, but they act like strangers.
Precisely. And while Embarazada is the famous funny one, there are some really high-stakes examples that can get you into actual trouble.
Actual trouble sounds ominous. Give me the worst-case scenario.
Okay, well, take the word preservative. In English, if you're buying, say, a loaf of bread or a jar of jam, you might check the label for preservatives.
Right. It's about keeping food fresh. Standard grocery run. I want my bread to last past Tuesday.
But if you walk into a Spanish grocery store and ask for preservativos, you are not asking for food additives.
Oh, no.
You are asking for condoms.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is a very different shopping trip.
Very different. You're going to get some confused looks from the baker and maybe a stern talking to from the grandmother in line behind you.
I can just imagine. I just want to keep my jam fresh. Sir, this is a bakery. What else?
Then there's the word molest. Now, in English, this is a very heavy, serious word. It implies sexual abuse or assault. It's a crime.
Definitely. It's a word that stops a conversation cold.
But in Spanish, the verb molestar simply means to bother or to annoy. It's incredibly common and casual.
Wait, really? Just to annoy?
Yes. So you might hear a Spanish mother say to her child, stop molesting your brother. And to an English ear, that sounds absolutely horrific. You'd want to call the police. But she's just saying, stop bugging him or stop poking him.
That is a minefield. You could completely misinterpret a situation if you didn't know that nuance.
Absolutely. It highlights that you just can't map words one-to-one. And then there's constipado.
Let me guess. It doesn't mean you need more fiber in your diet?
No. In Spanish, if you are constipado, it means you have a cold. You're congested in your nose. But if you tell an English speaker you're constipated, well, they're going to recommend a laxative, not a tissue.
Right. Imagine calling your boss. I can't come in today. I'm terribly constipated. Your boss is thinking, okay, TMI, just take the day off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are the big dramatic ones. But looking through the OTK source, there are some subtle ones that I feel are almost more dangerous
How so?
because they just confuse the conversation without causing a scene. They're insidious. The dramatic ones you learn quickly because the reaction, laughter, or shock is so strong. The subtle ones, they just ruin comprehension silently.
Okay, like what? Take the word actual.
This is a classic. It looks exactly like our word actually, as in, actually, I disagree with that point.
Right. It feels like a transition word you'd use in an argument.
But it's not. In Spanish, actual means current or at present. So actualmente means currently, not actually. If you want to say actually or in fact, you'd use something like de hecho.
That explains so many confused conversations I've had. I've definitely used actualmente to try and correct someone, and they probably just thought I was talking about the timeline.
Exactly. You're arguing facts. They think you're discussing scheduling.
Yeah.
Or take exit. You see the word éxito everywhere in business contexts in Latin America.
I always assumed that was just a fancy word for an exit strategy or a way out.
Nope. Éxito means success. An exit, like out of a building, is a salida. So if you're looking for the éxito, you're looking for success, not the door.
Where's the success? It's hard to find, my friend.
Deep. But yes, if there's a fire, look for salida, not éxito.
And one more from the list that caught my eye, carpeta.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
It looks like carpet. It begs to be carpet.
But it's not.
No, carpeta is a file folder. A carpet for your floor is an alfombra.
So don't try to sweep dust under the carpeta.
Unless you want a very dirty file folder. I mean, the takeaway here isn't just to memorize these specific words, it's to build a habit of double-checking. Your brain wants to take that shortcut. You have to train yourself to pause and say, wait, do I really know this? Or is this a false friend?
It's fighting that instinct to assume. Now, let's flip the mirror for a second. The Cambridge University Press data and the notes from United College talk about the reverse mistakes Spanish speakers make when learning English. Why is this relevant for us?
It's incredibly useful because understanding these errors helps us see the structural differences between the languages. It's like looking at a negative of a photograph. You see where the friction points are.
That makes sense.
If you know why a Spanish speaker says something wrong in English, you understand the logic of Spanish so much better.
Right. One thing that stood out to me in the data was spelling. Seems like such a small thing, but it trips people up constantly.
It does. Even with the true friends, the cognates that actually share meanings. Take the word accommodation. In Spanish, it's accommodation with one M. In English, we double the M.
Or comfortable.
Exactly. Spanish uses incomfortable. So you see English learners writing comfortable with an N all the time. It's just muscle memory.
Right.
But the biggest headache isn't spelling. According to the Cambridge data, the most common grammatical error involves those tiny little words, in, at, and on.
The prepositions. The nightmare for learners. I always hear people struggle with this.
The issue is that Spanish doesn't map these directly. In Spanish, the word en does a lot of heavy lifting. It's a utility knife. It covers both in and on, depending on the context.
So N is like a multi-purpose tool, but English requires specific screwdrivers for specific screws.
That's a great way to put it. So a Spanish speaker translates en to whatever feels right.
Yeah.
And you get sentences like, I'm in the bus instead of on the bus, or I will see you on the party instead of at the party.
That makes sense. If your native language combines those concepts, it's really hard to split them up mentally into three distinct buckets.
And it goes beyond prepositions. Look at the verbs, the classic make versus do.
Oh, I hear this all the time. I did a mistake.
Or I did a cake.
Right.
Right. Or story versus history. In Spanish, the word historia covers both. So a learner might say, let me tell you the history of what happened at the bar last night.
Which makes your Friday night sound very epic. The history of the bar. I'd listen to that.
It adds gravitas. But there's a deeper structural trap called subject omission. This is fascinating.
Okay.
In Spanish, the verb conjugation tells you who is doing the action. So you can just say, está lloviendo, means is raining. You don't need a subject.
But English is needy.
English is very needy.
Yeah.
You cannot just say, is raining. You have to provide the subject. You must say, it is raining. For a Spanish speaker, that it feels completely redundant.
It feels like extra baggage.
And then we have the literal translation trap. This comes up in the United College source. You'll hear things like, I have 25 years.
Right, because in Spanish, you possess your age. Tengo 25 años.
Exactly. You have years. In English, you are years. It's a whole different view of time and identity. Or the feelings trap, I am exciting instead of I am excited.
I am exciting means I'm a thrilling person.
Which you might be,
Hmm.
but if you're trying to say you're looking forward to something, you've missed the mark.
Okay, let's pivot to something that I think every single learner hits eventually. You're cruising along, you're feeling good, and then bam, you just stop improving.
The plateau.
Yes. The source from the Teaching English Language Journal calls this the upper intermediate plateau. I think we need to really unpack this because it's where most people get discouraged and quit. What is actually happening here?
It's a fascinating psychological phenomenon. When you start a language, you're in what's called the acceleration phase. Everything is new.
Yeah.
You learn cat, dog, hello.
Yeah.
Every word doubles your ability to communicate.
Yeah.
You get these constant dopamine hits because your progress feels huge.
You feel like a genius. Yesterday you knew 0 words. Today you know 10. That's infinite growth.
Exactly. But eventually you reach a level where you can get by. And suddenly the progress just slows to a crawl. The curve flattens. To get just 1% better now requires 10 times the effort it took at the start.
And the paper mentions 3 main reasons for this. First, instruction related.
Yeah, this is the classroom side. The course books get boring. They aren't authentic enough. You're reading these dry, manufactured dialogues instead of listening to how people actually talk. And there's not enough focus on output, on actually speaking and creating.
You're just consuming. Then there's learner related. This is where it gets personal.
This is the motivation drop. The paper calls it affection, your emotional connection to learning. And then there's this concept, fossilization.
That sounds like my brain turning to stone.
It's a vivid term, and it's a real danger. Fossilization is when an error freezes and becomes permanent. You know it's wrong. Maybe you've even been corrected a dozen times, but you keep saying, I have 25 years, because you've said it that way 500 times. The neural pathway is so deep that the error just cements itself.
So your mistakes are hardening. That's terrifying.
It is. It takes conscious, deliberate effort to break a fossilized error. And the third factor is going through problems.
Which sounds vague.
It's that unpleasant experience of feeling like you're wasting your time. It's the sensation of effort without reward. You're putting in the hours, but your comprehension isn't jumping up. You feel stuck. And that frustration creates a mental block.
Speaking of feeling stuck, let's talk about listening. Because nothing makes you feel more stuck than listening to a native speaker and realizing you only caught 1 word in 10.
We found a great Reddit thread on exactly this. The user complains, I understand it slowly, but native speakers are too fast.
And the response from the community was brilliant, they said. It's not about speed, it's about patterns.
And this is a crucial shift in thinking. Think about how you listen to English. You don't hear every single syllable. Your brain is a prediction machine. If I say, it's raining, I need my
Umbrella, my brain filled it in before you finished.
Right. Native speakers predict based on context and common word pairings. When you're learning, that prediction engine hasn't been built yet. So you're trying to process every single sound, raw, in real time. That's why it feels so fast.
Oh, how do we build that prediction engine without frying our brains? The sources suggest a training wheels method.
I love this analogy. You don't start cycling by entering the Tour de France. In language terms, that means cartoons.
Cartoons, like Peppa Pig.
Specifically Peppa Pig
Oh,
or Pocoyo.
I am a grown adult. I pay taxes. You want me to watch a pig in a red dress?
I do. And I want you to enjoy it. Because cartoons are designed for children who are also learning the language. The speech is slower, the vocabulary is repetitive, and it's visual. If Peppa says, I am jumping in the mud, you see her jumping in the mud. It builds that pattern recognition.
Okay, fine. So once I've graduated from Peppa Pig, what's next?
You move to the intermediate bike. Podcast designed for learners like Españolistas or Radio Ambulante. They're real stories, but they're articulated very clearly. They bridge that gap.
And the advanced level. The mountain biking.
Audiobooks of stories you already know. Harry Potter is the gold standard here.
Why Harry Potter specifically?
Because you know the plot. You know Harry's a wizard. You know he lives under the stairs. So when you listen to the Spanish version, if you miss a word, your brain can fill in the gap because you already have the context. That filling in process is fluency. That's you training your prediction engine.
That's really smart. You're using your existing knowledge as a scaffold.
Exactly. It reduces the cognitive load. And don't be afraid to use technology. YouTube and podcast players let you slow down the speed to 0.75x.
Doesn't that make everyone sound drunk?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But it gives your brain that extra millisecond to process. Conversely, once you get good, speed it up to 1.25x. Train your brain to catch up.
And phonetics is mentioned too.
This is so often overlooked. Spanish sounds run together. If you're listening for space dot out words dot light on dot the dot page, you will fail. You need to learn how sounds combine. You need to know that todo el mundo often sounds like tol mundo.
Todo mundo, right. If you're listening for todo el mundo, you'll miss it every time.
Precisely. You have to train your ear for connected speech.
Let's pivot to habits. We've talked about the traps and the listening, but how do we structure our day to avoid that plateau? The Columbian Broad blog had a story that I think resonates with a lot of us. The binge study mistake.
Ah, the weekend warrior. This is the student who does nothing Monday through Friday and then tries to study for 4 hours on Saturday to make up for it.
I feel attacked. That is definitely my strategy. Saturday is Spanish day.
And it's a terrible strategy. The source is very clear on this. It is far more effective to study 20 minutes a day than 3 hours once a week.
Why is that? Is it just attention span?
It's about memory retention, spaced repetition. If you wait a week between sessions, you spend the first hour just relearning what you forgot from last Saturday. You're just spinning your wheels. 20 minutes a day keeps those neural pathways active.
It keeps the engine warm. Another tip was about tangible goals.
I want to learn French is a terrible goal. It's too vague. How do you know when you've done it?
You don't. It feels endless.
Exactly. And that feeds the plateau feeling.
Yeah.
You need tangible, measurable targets. I will learn 5 verbs today. I will read 3 pages tonight. You need to be able to tick a box. That gives you the sense of progress the plateau steals from you.
And contextual learning. Well, we touched on this with Harry Potter, but the advice is to stop memorizing lists.
Please, stop with the lists. Lists are the enemy of fluency. Don't learn book equals libro. Learn the sentence. I am reading a great book. Estoy leyendo un libro genial.
Because words don't live in isolation.
Right. When you learn them in sentences, they come with built-in grammar and usage rules attached. You get a buy one, get 3 free deal on vocabulary.
Finally, from the Polyglotta source, there's a point about perfectionism that I found really liberating.
This is maybe the biggest psychological hurdle. The source compares 2 learners.
Right.
One is the perfectionist. They know all the grammar, but they're terrified of making a mistake, so they just freeze.
And the other type?
The messy learner. This person has basic skills, makes tons of errors, but uses gestures, confidence, and just goes for it.
And who communicates better?
The messy one. Every single time. The advice is to accept ambiguity. You don't need to understand every word to follow a story. Perfectionism is paralysis.
So it's okay to be the messy learner. In fact, it's better.
It's necessary. You cannot learn without making the mistake first. The mistake is the data point your brain needs to correct its model. If you never output the mistake, you never get the correction. You never learn.
So we've covered a lot today. We've navigated the minefield of false friends. Stay away from the preservativos unless you really need them.
Important safety tip. Double check your cognates.
We've looked at the grammar traps, we've diagnosed the plateau, and how to break it with consistent, authentic habits like the 20-minute rule.
And we've learned that listening is about prediction, not just hearing.
So before we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with one final thought to chew on.
There was a comment in that Reddit thread that I think sums up the mindset shift perfectly. Someone asked how to deal with waiting for their comprehension to improve. And the response quoted Arnold Schwarzenegger, of all people.
The Terminator gives language advice.
Apparently. He said, regarding success, you have to sleep faster. And someone in the thread adapted that. You have to wait faster.
Eat faster. That's cryptic. What does that mean in this context?
It means the plateau feels like waiting. You feel like you're standing still. And you can't rush the biological process of your brain rewiring itself. But you can change how you endure that wait.
So are you actually stuck?
That's the question. Are you stuck? Or is your brain just incredibly busy in the background, cementing the complex patterns that will eventually and suddenly click into place? Waiting faster means engaging with the content, keeping up the input, and trusting that the click is coming.
So the silence isn't nothing happening, it's construction noise you just can't hear yet.
Exactly. Embrace the plateau. It's where the real work happens.
Wait faster. I like that. Thank you all for listening to this deep dive. Go make some mistakes, get messy, and we'll see you next time.